Okay, welcome to Lazy Girl News. Woo! And welcome to my friend Desiree Stevens, who is a cog in the corporate machine by day as a marketing and ops director. She's a neurospicy activist raging against said capitalist machine by night. Accidental content creator on TikTok and Instagram who fell into it, as we all did during lockdown, to find some dopamine. Desiree blends relatable mum life chaos, perimenopausal shitstorms, and lip sync satire with a hefty side of sarcasm, fiercely advocating for a free Palestine, fighting oppression, and championing women's equality. And you are, very excitingly, currently a delegate to the UN UK Women's Commission on the Status of Women.
I am. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on. And also, just for a bit of background, I discovered you on, this is a very chronically online elder millennial vibe, in that I found you online in maybe 2021, something like that, on TikTok, and then was just obsessed with you, and then we became like TikTok friends, and then we became real life friends, and now we're March buddies.
It's just the best story, isn't it? I think, and I don't even remember how it happened, but I know you followed me, I followed you back, and I was like, oh, she's really cool. And then I think we linked up FYPs because we were always in each other's comment sections. So it was just beautiful to happen.
All right, I'll move on from in-jokes between us and the big love fest, but let me tell you about the Lazy Girl news from this week. Number one, last week, The Guardian broke the news that the Conservative Party's biggest donor, Frank Hester, said that looking at Diane Abbott makes you want to hate all black women, and said that she should be shot. But wait, because Frank Hester apologised for being rude. So that's totally okay then. And Rishi wants us to chill out because friendship means never having to say sorry for being a massive racist. In Prime Minister's Questions last week, when this was clearly a huge talking point, Diane Abbott stood up to speak 46 times and was ignored by Speaker Lindsay Hoyle, who you might remember from last week's Lazy Girl News as being in hot water. Oh yeah, and Keir Starmer said what's happening to Diane Abbott is absolutely abhorrent, but also he absolutely won't be giving her back the whip because he fucked her over first and he loves that journey for himself. I just want to add some meat to these disgusting bones. Diane Abbott, who has held her seat in Hackney North and Stoke Newington since 1987 when she became the first ever black woman MP, was suspended from the Labour Party pending an investigation, which was about a year ago, maybe a bit less than a year ago, after she sent a letter to The Observer where she made the comments that Jewish, Irish and traveller people faced prejudice akin to white people with points of difference, such as redheads. She apologised for these statements, which were really offensive, but of course it's been branded as anti-Semitic, not helped by Starmer's own framing of it at the time, where he basically said it was anti-Semitic. And at this point, I'd also like to point out the abuse that Abbott has faced from within her own party. Jess Phillips said that she told Diane Abbott to fuck off during an argument they were having about feminism or something, which is completely inappropriate. I don't believe they have that relationship. They're not besties that would say that to each other. And Wes Streeting was reported to literally scream at her in the corridors and had to be held back by his colleagues, which I think this was quite a while ago, but she would have been in her 60s at that point, in her late 60s, I think, at that point, which is mind-boggling to me that he wouldn't lose the whip. Yeah, it's disgusting. And Diane Abbott has faced, and even Keir Starmer says this, everybody says this, she has probably faced the most abuse of any MP, any black woman MP. She published a statement where she pointed out that she doesn't drive, she's a single woman, she moves around Hackney and London as a single woman on public transport. She's not on her private jet like Rishi, she doesn't have security details, and she felt unsafe. And I think the biggest thing is that, to take it back to Frank Hester, is that him saying these absolutely racist comments gives, and nobody kind of holding him to account and saying this is racist, means that you're almost giving carte blanche to anybody who thinks that, oh, I can say those things and I can just say that they're rude and I can just apologise after. So What do you think?
Well, I just think it's an absolute
yeah.
shit show, isn't it? If you apply the logic of Sunak and the Tories this week, she apologised for those comments, so she should have the whip back. You should apply Christian decency and accept her apology because she said something rude and offensive. Give her the whip back. It's just such a double standard, isn't it? Such a double standard.
Yeah, hugely. And I think also the way that the Tory party have doubled down and framed this all as, look, he's apologised. So the Tory party spokesperson just initially refused to even say that it was racist. And then they're saying, okay, yeah, it was racist, but he apologised. He apologised. And then also, okay, it was racist and he apologised, but he didn't apologise for it being racist. He apologised for it being rude. So he hasn't actually apologised. And also, it was ages ago. They keep putting in these little caveats of, come on, guys, it doesn't matter because this. And fundamentally, I think what's more of a story to me than the fact that he donates, he's the Tory party's biggest owner of £10 million he donated. I don't know whether that's actually last year or just a lifetime donation.
I think there was, they said last week there was another 5 million that was in the pot that hadn't even yet been declared. So I think we're up to 15 million now, which just...
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
so 15
that's
million.
what it costs not to be branded as a racist in this country. £15 million and you're scot-free. There you go.
Exactly. But what's a bigger story to me is that his company made his riches from IT in the NHS.
Yeah.
So he provides IT services, I believe, or like software to the NHS, which is worth around 400 million. So he's got all these contracts, no doubt helped by the fact that the government that's been the party that's been in government for the past 14 years and in charge of all of those things has been helping him out. It seems a bit of quid pro quo there. And I think that's quite a big story, because if we're saying, to take it back to the spring budget last week where Jeremy Hunt was saying, I'm putting this much money into the NHS, not into junior doctors' salaries, not into nurses' salaries, not into anything else, but into IT systems that will make it more proficient and more, it will run better, then doesn't that Frank Hester's contracts with the NHS over the past however many years, they're obviously not doing a very good job if we're putting more money into... I don't know, the whole thing to me just is so gross and cronyism and it's
so sleazy. I don't know if you saw the select committee interview with Jeremy Hunt where he admitted it was a racist comment and said he thought it was racist, but then when asked whether they would return the money, he said no. So they will accept the money, but they won't defend the comment. So give us money, but okay if you apologized. The other thing that I find so striking in all this is the absolute kind of brown washing that Rishi Sunak has done. Standing up in the comments and is like, our parties... we're the equality parties, like the first brown prime minister, and it does not make in any way, and it's actually quite offensive to do that.
Yeah, it is, and he has definitely been weaponized in conversations where people have been pushed by journalists and they've said our first Hindu prime minister and blah 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 blah. Yes, technically the Tory party is the most but the bar is so fucking low. Like it and also the diversity of thought is not necessarily there.
No.
So Kemi Badenoch, who I would consider pretty right wing, has said that the comments are racist, but I heard her on LBC, and just to say, Kemi Badenoch, if anybody doesn't know, is a black woman MP, Tory, and she said, again, was parroting that line of, he's apologised, it's a distraction, let's just move on from this. I don't know, this whole thing, and I just feel so bad for Diane Abbott.
At least she has the support of the people, and I think that's the most crucial thing here, is like the lenses have fallen, haven't they? And people are seeing, and I think the whole Israel crisis and everything else has made us really question a lot of things, which is a good thing. So we're seeing things for what they are right now and not just the washing that has been happening in the past. And I bet you, if you were to
Yeah, I
delve
agree.
deeper into all of the top Tory party donors, you would find a lot of this kind of stuff buried in there.
Yeah. And I would suggest the
Yeah.
Labour Party donors too, to be honest. There was another thing that I wanted to say about this particular, what happened last week, was that I'm not a member of the Labour Party anymore, so I didn't get this email. But quite quickly after this, so quite quickly after The Guardian broke the news about Frank Hester's racist comments towards Diane Abbott, the Labour Party sent out an email to their supporters, to their members, basically saying, this is terrible, the Tory party have a donor that is racist. Anyway, just click a button here and support us.
Yeah.
Which, great that they're denouncing it, and were denouncing it in Prime Minister's questions, but you're profiting off a black woman who you have suspended from your own party pending an investigation that hasn't been done. And she has been treated so poorly by your own party. It just feels so uncomfortable. Especially after how Jeremy Corbyn was ousted for not dealing with the racism in the party. That was the whole smear campaign, was that he was anti-Semitic. Everybody around him was anti-Semitic. He wasn't dealing with anti-Semitism in the party. And now Keir Starmer standing on a seat based on, he's there saying, this is a new Labour, it's nothing like Jeremy Corbyn. It's worse.
It's pretty much the same,
no?
And even worse, I agree. I mean, and that email was in such poor taste. I also didn't get it, but I saw a snippet of it on social media. And it was just so in poor taste, actually. Just of, we don't get big money from big donors. Why don't you put your hand in pocket to help us win the next election? And forgetting anything about Diane Abbott and the abhorrent thing that she's just faced. It was in such poor taste. And I think it really shows New Labour for what it is, really.
Very out of touch, I would say.
They're not New Labour, are they? They're just different Tory. Yep.
Tory light. Or bitch Tory, as I like to call them in my house. Let's move on to story number 2. Flying is the safest way to travel unless you're on a Boeing plane, in which case the odds might not be in your favour. So in 2018, 2 brand new Boeing planes crashed, killing hundreds of people. But it obviously wasn't their fault. Absolutely not, except it definitely was. I personally was absolutely shocked, except I wasn't, when I heard that 2 more of their planes were dropping parts from the sky. Nobody was hurt in either of these instances that happened this year, but still terrifying. And totally unrelated, the Boeing whistleblower due to testify against them was found dead last week, which all totally normal. So I am a self-confessed aviation geek, so I'm absolutely here for this story. And I don't know how much you know about Boeing's history, but this is all about the Boeing 737 MAX planes, which were the centre of attention about 5 years ago. 2 planes crashed due to faulty software. The company at the time agreed to pay $2.5 billion, which I think is about £1.8 billion, to settle fraud charges. It has been documented that the company has a toxic work environment. Al Jazeera did an undercover operation where they went into Boeing factories and found really concerning things, workers forced to rush processes, leading to safety concerns. And Barnett, John Barnett, I think his name is, who's the former employer who was found dead last week, claimed the rush to build planes as quickly as possible in order to maximise profits had led to unsafe practices. I'm just quoting from a BBC article there. So there's so much interesting juice in this story, because the reason that Boeing are wanting to rush to maximise profits, of course, because they're they're a corporation, but also because their closest competitor, Airbus, who, with the 737 MAX, it's really interesting because Boeing planes are shorter than Airbus planes. So they're not as high. And when Airbus when they all want to, obviously they want to maximize energy efficiency, and so when they put in new, because that means that they're more profitable, but also they're more lucrative. It's a bit of greenwashing there, isn't it? And more people are likely to buy their planes. So when they put in new engines, new, more efficient engines, for Airbus, they could literally just put it into the plane. They didn't have to make any adaptations to the plane. But for Boeing, they did. And they had to be careful, because what they don't want to do is have the plane be remotely different, like a remotely different spec. That means that they then have to pay to train pilots in the new system. And this is what happened 5 years ago. So they had this new MCAS system, which they essentially just put under the radar so that they wouldn't have to train pilots and pay to train pilots, because they would still have made money, but they wanted to make more money. Obviously. And even when, I don't know if it was, because I know one of the planes was a Lion Air plane, but even when Lion Air or one of the airlines, I'm almost positive it's Lion Air, but I'll double check, went back to Boeing, and this was 5 years ago, and said, do we need to train our pilots? They asked the question. They were told in no uncertain terms, no, it's basically exactly the same. There's no need for any extra training. So to me, and there was need for extra training, it's absolutely crazy. It's why those two planes crashed. And there's loads of geeky stuff that
getting a real educator this morning. I love it.
Yeah, what do you think about this?
I think it's such an interesting story. Like, I obviously don't know all the technical bits like you do. You're fantastic with that. Like, I'm just here for the conspiracy bits. Like, just very scandalous, isn't it? Let's talk about it. Like, why would John Barnett die by his own what did they call it? Self-inflicted wounds. So by his own hand. Why would he take his life? Like, days before the next hearing, where literally the world was beginning to believe him. Like, he'd been saying this since 2017, it was, and he'd been bringing I saw some of the things where he brought proof that they were taking stuff from scrap bins and putting it onto the planes, and stuff like that. And now all of this is coming out, the world's believing him. Why would he do that? Just does not, like, I don't believe it.
It really reminds me of after the Iraq War, or when the Iraq War happened. Do you remember the weapons inspector?
I don't remember either, but he was found in was it on a park bench or? Yeah.
Yeah, or in
field.
A field or something.
Yes.
Or he was found by a tree. I think he'd also died, and they claimed it was suicide. I am inclined to agree with you. I think nothing surprises me anymore. And probably 5 years ago, maybe a bit longer, I would have said, that's crazy. It's not really like it is on TV. Now...
It totally is.
I know that it is. Because we were also told that when... Remember the Salisbury poisonings... or Litvinenko, we're told that, that happens when it's Putin, because he is crazy, and but it doesn't happen to anyone else.
He's an adversarial government. Only happens there.
Exactly.
No, I don't think so.
Only in Russia or in China, never in... And I don't believe that. They have a lot to lose. Boeing have a lot to lose.
And
I
think what's also this is that Boeing doesn't only make commercial airlines. They've got a lot of military contracts, don't they? They do a lot of military weaponry. Yeah. So if we are saying, I think the FAA did an audit of their facilities and they failed like 33 of the 89 times. That's a very low track record to have. And if they're making military machinery, that's very concerning, isn't it? Especially in today's current situations.
Yeah, and I think we can all
connect the
join
dots.
Up those lines there, can't we? Yeah, let's connect those dots. So the last story, which actually I have to admit I don't know as much about, but in a break from passing laws on women's bodies, the US House of Representatives voted to pass a bill that would see TikTok banned in the US. unless it divests from its parent company ByteDance, which is a Chinese company. That's all totally unrelated. If this passes, of course. If this passes in the Senate, which would be the next step, and then to almost dead Pres Biden, if he passes it, which he says he will, because he's literally the worst, then TikTok will be very difficult to use in the US, but obviously not impossible. So all that begs the question, why on earth would America want to take away the app that's helped all of us to mobilise so many important social justice issues? It is
very
so
strange indeed.
So
it's very strange indeed. Luckily for us, we had a very helpful video for those who are on TikTok. There is, do you know Jeff Jackson on TikTok, Lucy? Senator from...
He's the person in the House of Representatives.
Yes, so he has built himself a very handy little platform on TikTok. I think he had 2.5 million at one time. He was heralded as the only straight talking politician. He would tell you the facts as they were in a very calm tone. So he built himself a great little platform. And then he came on last week and did a video as to why he voted yes for the ban. And it was because he had been in briefings. Briefings are and he was party to some information about why TikTok was using our data, right? But then it begs the question, why are you on it, Jeff? Like, why did you build a platform on it if you have all of this information that the average person doesn't have? Oh. And even further than that, Joe Biden's on it. Joe Biden launched himself on it during the Super Bowl a couple of weeks ago to reach the younger voters. But if there had been briefings about why this app was so dangerous and using people's data, why are you all on it? Let's connect all of those dots up. Like it all leads back to one government, but it's not the one you think it is, do you?
So I saw a few, something that could happen ostensibly is that, and I guess what they want to happen is that TikTok divests from ByteDance and sells essentially like a franchise. In America, investors could buy it as long as they're not Chinese. That I've heard and that have been reported are Israeli investors buying it, which would help their cause maybe because they would be able to control propaganda. Because if you look at the hashtags which have been reported quite a lot on social media, the hashtags regarding Palestine, Free Palestine has like absolutely billions. If you go to the bottom, I stand with Israel has, it's a tiny proportion. And obviously TikTok has been, and Instagram to a lesser extent, and Twitter have been instrumental in lots and lots of people coming to the Palestinian cause that didn't know about it beforehand. It's been incredible. But not just that, lots of things. Yes, this is related to Palestine, but the boycotts of Starbucks and McDonald's particularly, I'm talking about those two particularly because they have caused damage. They really have caused damage. In a few months, they caused so much damage that both companies had to issue kind of joint statements about it, which is unprecedented. I find it so interesting that they think that we won't see through this.
And the other thing that's interesting is if they think that passing a bill to ban TikTok is going to stop that for people mobilizing or people getting together, I think time's passed, the horse has bolted. Like people will just move on to a new app. There will be something that replaces TikTok. So if they're hoping that this kind of dampening down effect, I think they're going to quickly realize that it's going to have the opposite effect. And then there's also the leaked audio call of the guy from the ADL. Did you hear? Yes, we have a major TikTok problem. It's not a it's not a left and right problem. It's a generational problem. So if they think that this is going to stop all of that from happening, I think they're sorely mistaken. So it's really the worst approach they could have taken to this. Yeah.
I agree. And Trump has said, even though he tried to ban TikTok in 2020, he has said, I'm not going to. yeah, I despair that at most things, but especially at America. We've got a couple of bonus things.
So, I think the thing on everyone's lips this week is, where is Kate? Where is she?
Where is she?
Where is she? Now, I have to say, I'm not a royalist by any means, but I am very neurospicy, and my brain cannot cope with not being able to solve puzzles. So this one has been something that has consumed a lot of my time over the last week. And this conspiracy theories on this is wild. It's getting out of control wild, isn't it? But I think, do you know what, I don't even think we need to talk about all of that, because I think like all of that is, a lot of it is just clearly rubbish. But what I find so interesting about it is the psychology around why people have gotten so deep into it. And I'll tell you what I think it is. I think it is just because it is such a big distraction and a way for us to dissociate from how absolutely dog shit the world is at the moment. So it's just something that everyone can cling on to, and just, it's a lovely bit of escapism, because it is very strange how the palace have dealt. There's lots of different kind of like avenues of it, and they could have stopped all of this like a week ago and just put a camera in front of her, or just taken a proper picture and just released a statement. So I don't know, what do you think? Where is she? What is she doing? Has she fled the country?
I'm like you, I don't know or care, but also I need to know, because I need to fix this. But the thing, I'm the same as you in that what I find very interesting is how the royal family have handled it, and how I think this is completely symptomatic of how out of touch they are, and how little control they have in comparison to what they used to have. So I saw Molly McPherson, lovely PR Molly, talking about, and this was a couple of weeks ago, I think, this was before the photo. She was talking about how they've dealt with Kate, in that they put out a statement which was very much, there's nothing to see here. She's had scheduled abdominal surgery. There's nothing to see here. Go away. You're not hearing anything until April. Go away. And then nothing has been, I'm guessing that was from their point of view, this is what we always do. We will put out a statement and we're telling you what to do, what you're allowed to look at, what you're allowed to be interested in, and you just do what you're told. And then in comparison, how the detail that they've given around Charles and his prostate cancer. Is it prostate cancer?
Unspecified cancer. He had a prostate check, but then they haven't specified what the cancer is.
Yeah, that's right. But then they've given a lot more detail around his kind of situation. And then again, the member of the royal family, the husband of someone who killed himself, or took his own life, and quite a lot of detail that they've given about that, which I don't know, it just feels like they're scrambling. They're like, shit, we didn't think that you would look or question us. That's how it feels. The tone of it is very much, oh, go away. You don't, just stop asking us. It's none of your business. Go away.
And there's always some misdirection going on, isn't there? Like I was watching a video of a lady who was, I can't remember her name, but she was very much had been in the kind of press machine and the PR machine, working with the royals for many years. And she was saying, like, it's always a case of, don't look where they're trying to make you look. Look where they're not trying to make you look. So perhaps like Kate has been the handy distraction from perhaps what's really going on with King Charles. That perhaps it is more serious than they let on, but it's giving them time to scramble behind the lines. And I think at the moment, one of the top guesses of what this is going to be is an abdication. That, because I don't know if you saw, the BBC had been put on notice to expect breaking news, royal news. So they're saying by Wednesday. Don't know. So it's either that, it's either an abdication or
not another fucking coronation.
Yeah, because
We
No,
can't
there's
afford
lots
it.
of money for that kind of stuff, don't you know? Like, there's no money to...
And a funeral.
There's no money for, like, send education and,
Christ.
like, homelessness and all of that. But there's money
none.
for weddings and funerals. So...
Tell me why I am baking cakes to raise money for my daughter's school when these guys are just having gazillion pound coronations. Tell me why. Unbearable.
But so hopefully by Wednesday we'll know where Kate is. Has she been on holiday? Has she had surgery? What's going on? One of the conspiracies was that she'd had a BBL. I really hope that one is true. I really hope that one's true.
I know, me too. Imagine Kate with a BBL, just look insane. This absolute stick with a ginormous ass. Good for her if she does, but thank you so much for today. This was so fun.
That was fun.
And bonus bit of time with you.
Did you have another
well.
one you wanted to do? Did you have it?
I was just going to talk about Rachel Corrie. Yeah. Okay, on March the 16th, it was 10 years since the US activist Rachel Corrie was killed in Israel by a IDF bulldozer as she stood in front of a Palestinian house with a megaphone stopping it. So I've known about Rachel Corrie literally since she died. I've always known about Rachel Corrie, and she really radicalised me. Her death radicalised me. But I realised that quite a lot of people, since October 7th, there are lots of people who didn't know really anything about Palestine, and seeing people learn about Rachel Corrie is just an absolute joy to me, because she was such an interesting and amazing character, and it is tragic, her story. And I think if more people knew about it, they would be as radicalised as... So I just wanted to end on that and to honour Rachel Corrie and Aaron Bushnell as well for their amazing hearts.
Absolutely. Did you see the Al Jazeera tribute that they put out on Saturday? That was really beautiful. I thought the interview with her parents, and I think probably not for the first time, because these things have always been around in the media, but for the first time people, I think, really took notice of the story and the footage that they showed and the pictures that they shared. It was really hard hitting, wasn't it?
Yeah. And there's a couple of documentaries that I really recommend about Rachel Corrie that I'll put in the show notes. They're quite difficult to find, but I found one that is streaming free on the Palestinian Film Institute, and it's a really good one, actually. So yeah, I'll share that and the Al Jazeera tribute.
It was beautiful to see how, and it wasn't that she had just stepped into it in her adult years. As a child, the speeches that they showed of about it was so eloquent. One can only dream of being so eloquent as a child, talking about something that's so important. She was a phenomenal young lady, and I think we should all pay tribute to her.
Yeah, indeed. On that note, thank you very much for listening to Lazy Girl News. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you online?
I am TikTok and Instagram, unqualified in every way, but muddling it through.
And you definitely should follow Desiree because she's hilarious. All right, thanks so much.
See you later.